The distinction between what is in your control and what is not is one of the fundamental lessons of Stoicism and has significant implications for developing emotional self-control. This idea is often attributed to the formulation known as the threefold discernment, or threefold division by the Stoics, which is associated with Epictetus. The threefold division involves classifying things into three distinct categories, things that are in our absolute control. These are the things we have direct and complete control over. They include our opinions, judgments, desires, aversions, and, in general, our voluntary actions, things that are not in our absolute control. These are the things we have no direct control over. They include external events, the actions of other people, the weather, the past, and the future. These things are outside our immediate sphere of influence, things that are partially in our control. These are the things that are not completely in our control, but over which we can exert some degree of influence. For example, our health, our education, and our relationships can be partially influenced by our actions. The emphasis is on focusing attention and energy on the first category, as this is where we can have the most impact. Stoicism encourages cultivating virtue, self-control, and wisdom, all aspects that are within the individual's sphere of control. By recognizing and internalizing this distinction, practitioners of Stoicism seek not to become excessively upset by things beyond their control. This does not mean total indifference, but rather a calm acceptance of circumstances that cannot be changed, accompanied by a constructive focus on what can be changed. This approach has the potential to reduce anxiety related to uncertainty and the uncontrollable, promoting a more resilient mindset focus on actions that really matter. The practice of selective indifference, also known as deliberate indifference or apathy, is a Stoic approach to dealing with external circumstances that are beyond personal control. In the context of Stoicism, indifference should not be interpreted as complete disinterest or lack of care, but as a conscious way of not letting external events deeply affect one's emotional state. The fundamental idea is to carefully discern between what is important and what is not, focusing attention and energy on what is under control. Some import. Practice of selective indifference include: don't worry about what is beyond your control. Stoicism suggests that one should avoid expending emotional energy on events or situations that cannot be controlled. Instead, focus on how you choose to react and respond to these circumstances. Maintain serenity in the face of adversity by practicing selective indifference. Stoics seek to maintain serenity even in the face of difficult events. This does not mean completely ignoring difficulties, but rather facing them with a calm and balanced mind. Develop emotional resilience by choosing to be indifferent to things that cannot be controlled. Practitioners of Stoicism seek to develop emotional resilience. This involves the ability to deal with life's ups and downs in a balanced and controlled way. Focus on virtue and wisdom. The practice of selective indifference is aligned with the Stoic focus on the pursuit of virtue and wisdom by diverting attention from trivial or external concerns. You can devote more energy to character development and personal improvement, Avoid emotional dependence on external results. Stoicism encourages not to link one's own happiness and well-being to external results by being indifferent to events outside of one's control. A person reduces emotional dependence on external circumstances, which can lead to greater emotional stability. It is important to note that selective indifference is not a complete denial of emotions or an absence of care toward others. Instead, it is a conscious approach to directing emotions and energy toward what really matters, promoting emotional stability and the ability to act with discernment in the face of life's vicissitudes. Accepting the inevitabilities of life is an essential lesson of Stoicism that involves recognizing and embracing the inescapable nature of certain events and circumstances. This practice is deeply rooted in the idea that many things are beyond our control, and resisting these realities can lead to unnecessary suffering. Here are some important aspects of this Stoic lesson. Acceptance of impermanence. Stoics recognize that life is marked by impermanence and constant change. Accepting this fact helps you cultivate a more realistic perspective and avoid futile resistance to life's inevitabilities. Dealing with uncertainty. Life is, by nature, uncertain and unpredictable. Stoics believe that accepting uncertainty is essential to maintaining mental tranquility. Instead of worrying excessively about the future, they try to focus on the actions they can take in the present. Facing human finitude, Stoicism encourages acceptance of one's mortality and human finitude. Recognizing that life is ephemeral can serve as a powerful reminder to value time and meaningful relationships. Adopt an attitude of healthy detachment. Accepting life's inevitabilities is related to developing a healthy sense of detachment. This does not mean becoming insensitive, but rather recognizing that some things are beyond our control and learning to deal with them calmly, learning from difficulties. Instead of resisting or lamenting challenges, Stoics seek to learn from them. Accepting the inevitabilities of life allows you to see difficulties as opportunities for personal growth and development. Focus on what is under control. Accepting the inevitabilities of life is intrinsically linked to the practice of distinguishing between what is in our control and what is not, focusing on the actions it can take and the attitudes it can adopt in the face of inevitable circumstances helps maintain emotional balance. By internalizing this Stoic lesson, people can develop a more resilient and adaptive mindset. Instead of resisting or despairing in the face of inevitabilities, they can find constructive ways to deal with challenges and cultivate an inner peace that is not easily shaken by life's changes and uncertainty. The practice of self-discipline is a fundamental aspect of Stoicism, a philosophy that values conscious control over our actions, thoughts, and emotions. Self-discipline in the Stoic context is not just a matter of restricting behaviors, but of cultivating habits and virtues that lead to a more ethical and meaningful life. Here are some relevant points about the practice of self-discipline in Stoicism. Mastery over past passions and impulses. Self-discipline in Stoicism involves mastery over passions and emotional impulses. This does not mean completely suppressing emotions, but rather cultivating the ability to not be governed by them The objective is to act rationally and ethically, even in the face of intense emotions. Virtue as a guide. Stoics believe that self-discipline is fundamental to achieving moral excellence. And virtue, living according to ethical principles such as courage, justice, wisdom, and temperance, requires a conscious effort to discipline actions in accordance with these values. Control over desires and aversions. Stoicism highlights the importance of cultivating selective indifference toward external things. Self-discipline includes the ability to control desires and aversions by not allowing external circumstances to determine internal contentment. Practice of discernment. Self-discipline in Stoicism also involves the practice of discernment, the ability to assess situations clearly and choose the most appropriate response. In accordance with ethical principles, this requires constant reflection on one's actions and a continuous search for wisdom. Focus on actions, not results. Stoics value an emphasis on actions over external results. Self-discipline includes the ability to strive to do what is right regardless of external rewards or consequences, setting high goals and standards. The practice of self-discipline in Stoicism encourages setting high goals and standards for yourself. This entails creating habits that are aligned with core values of virtue and constant self-reflection to ensure adherence to these standards, resistance to excessive pleasure and indulgence. Self-discipline also involves resisting excessive pleasure and indulgence. Stoics believe that moderation and self-control are essential to achieving inner peace and true happiness. By practicing self-discipline, Stoics seek to create a life characterized by virtue, wisdom, and lasting contentment. This ongoing practice of self-control is seen as a journey of self-transformation and constant improvement. Living according to virtue is a central tenet in Stoicism, a philosophy that emphasizes moral and ethical development as the key to achieving a fulfilling life. Stoics believe that the pursuit of virtue is the path to achieving eudaimonia, which can be translated as full fulfillment and human flourishing. Here are some important aspects about living according to virtue in the context of Stoicism. The four cardinal virtues. The Stoics identify four cardinal virtues that form the basis of Stoic ethics: courage or fortitude, the ability to face fear and act in accordance with what is right, even when it is difficult; justice, treating others fairly, acting impartially, and respecting the rights of others; wisdom, the constant search for knowledge and discernment, the ability to make informed decisions and act with common sense; temperance or self-control, moderation and discipline over desires and impulses, avoiding excesses. Focus on what can be controlled. Living according to virtue and Stoicism involves focusing on internal characteristics and actions that are under personal control. This means that people should strive to cultivate virtues in themselves, regardless of external circumstances. Rejection of external things as a source of happiness. Stoics argue that true happiness does not lie in external things, such as wealth, fame, or pleasure. Instead, it is found in the consistent practice of virtues, which are internal qualities. Practice of authenticity. Living according to virtue and Stoicism implies living in an authentic way and aligned with one's own ethical principles. This requires self-knowledge and honesty with yourself about the fundamental values that guide actions, continuous development. Stoics see the pursuit of virtue as an ongoing journey of self-development. Perfecting virtues is not an end goal, but a constant process of moral improvement, resilience in the face of adversity. Living according to virtue in Stoicism involves facing adversity with courage and resilience instead of being shaken by challenges. Stoics see these situations as opportunities to practice and strengthen their virtues. Understanding the interconnection of virtues. Stoics recognize the interconnection between the virtues, understanding that the practice of one virtue often implies the exercise of the others. For example, courage may require wisdom, and justice often requires temperance. Living according to virtue in Stoicism is therefore more than adopting a set of rules. It is a commitment to a way of life based on sound ethical principles. This approach aims to create a solid foundation for lasting happiness, regardless of fluctuations in external circumstances. Reflecting on the transience of life is a key practice in Stoicism, a philosophy that seeks to promote a deeper understanding of the ephemeral nature of existence. This reflection helps Stoic practitioners cultivate a balanced perspective and deal with life's ups and downs in a more serene manner. Here are some important aspects about this Stoic lesson: impermanence and constant change. Stoicism recognizes that life is characterized by impermanence and constant change. Nothing is permanent, and everything is subject to transformation. This reflection reminds individuals not to become overly attached to specific situations or circumstances. Acceptance of the transitory nature. Reflecting on the transience of life involves accepting the fleeting nature of experiences, relationships, and achievements. This does not mean devaluing these things, but recognizing that at some point everything will come to an end. Valuing the present moment. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of valuing the present moment by understanding that time is limited and that circumstances can change quickly. Stoic practitioners seek to enjoy and appreciate what they have at the moment, avoiding unnecessary worries about the future or regrets about the past. Reducing anxiety about the future. Reflecting on the transience of life can help reduce anxiety about the future by accepting that things are subject to change. Stoics strive not to worry excessively about events that are beyond their control. Motivation for meaningful actions. Awareness of the transience of life can serve as a motivation for meaningful actions. Stoic practitioners are inspired to act ethically, pursue personal development, and contribute to the common good. Recognizing that every moment is valuable, preparing for loss and adversity. Reflecting on impermanence helps you prepare for loss and adversity. Stoics recognize that at some point they will face challenges and losses, and this awareness enables them to face these situations with a more resilient mindset. Appreciation of the beauty of transience. Instead of seeing transience as something negative, Stoics can appreciate the beauty it brings to life. The ephemerality of special experiences and moments can make them more precious and meaningful. Ultimately, reflecting on the transience of life in Stoicism is a way to cultivate a more balanced, and wise relationship with time and experiences, this practice contributes to a more serene, resilient, and conscious perspective on the realities of human existence, but rather a healthy and balanced relationship with emotions. Here are some relevant aspects about this practice in the context of Stoicism. Distinction between reactions and responses. Emotional detachment involves distinguishing between impulsive reactions and deliberate responses. Instead of reacting automatically to emotions, Stoics seek to respond thoughtfully, considering ethical principles and values. Conscious control of emotions. Stoics believe that emotions can be controlled consciously. Practicing emotional detachment involves not allowing negative emotions to dominate the mind, but rather observing them objectively and deciding how to act when faced with them. Selective indifference. Emotional detachment is related to selective indifference, a Stoic concept that involves choosing where to invest emotionally. Stoics seek to be indifferent to things that are outside of their control, focusing on areas where they can have an impact. Serene. Acceptance of changes. Practicing emotional detachment includes calmly accepting the inevitable changes in life. This involves understanding that nature is fluid and that resisting change can cause unnecessary suffering. Not relying excessively on results. Stoics advise against relying too much on external outcomes for happiness by decoupling one's happiness from external circumstances. Stoic practitioners can maintain a more stable inner peace, learning from experiences without excessive attachments. Practicing emotional detachment involves learning from experiences without developing excessive attachments to them. This allows for a more objective approach and a greater ability to adapt to changes. Detachment from the opinions of others. Stoics encourage detachment from the opinions of others rather than seeking external validation. Self-esteem and authenticity are cultivated from internal principles and virtues. Appreciation without attachment. Practicing emotional detachment also involves appreciating things and people without becoming overly attached to them. This allows you to enjoy experiences and relationships without creating harmful emotional dependencies. Focus on the present. Emotional detachment in Stoicism includes focusing on the present, rather than worrying excessively about the past or future. Stoic practitioners seek to live fully in the present moment, enjoying experiences without emotional excesses. Practicing emotional detachment in Stoicism is an approach that aims to free the mind from excessive emotional turmoil, promoting emotional stability, resilience, and the ability to live in accordance with fundamental ethical principles.